up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I have my October 2023 TBR. Good Lord, what have I gotten myself into? Way too many readathons. That's what I've gotten myself into. Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. Basically, we've got the Wheel of D20 books, we have Bookoplathon, we have Battle of the Bookish, we have Vampathon, we have Blackoween, we have Samhain, the next round of Witchathon. Okay, so here's basically what we're doing. So first of all, we're going to go through the Wheel of D20 stuff because first and foremost, that's important. We did end up completing the 5 prompts that were needed for the Wheel of D20 in September, so we do get to go down to 4 spins in the month, which is exciting. Very happy that that has been the way things have gone. But afterwards, we're going to go through basically what are the different prompts and things that we're going to do, and I'm going to kind of explain how I'm going to do a lot of half mood reading, half TBR. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so we have got our rules set up. So first we have is for the reread prompt. Now, y'all better be checking me for a fever if I do not put the hating game on here as a potential reread, because this is my favorite reread every single time I reread it. So we're going with that one. The other one, though, is another book that I also love to reread, which is Babel by R.F. Kuang. Again, if you do not see me putting it on any list for a possible reread, check me for a fever, because this is my favorite book of 2022. Still is one of my favorite books. So let's see which of the favorites ends up winning this round. And we got a 3. If I can get that to focus properly. 3, there we go. So that means we're going to read The Hating Game once again for probably the 2nd or 3rd time yet this year. I think it's 2nd. I think we're only up to 2. But yay! Next we have a blue book. So for this I have 2 ebooks. I have basically Body and Soul Food by, I don't remember the author, I'm sorry. This is a book club read for one of the groups I am in on Patreon, specifically Liv from Liv Reads a Latte, versus the Octavia E. Butler read for this month, which is the 2nd book in the Xenogenesis trilogy, which is Adulthood Rites. Now, let's see which one ends up getting the pick for this month. 13. Okay, so that means that we're going to go with the higher ended book, which is Adulthood Rites. So Octavia is going on our list, and we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone this month. Okay, next we have the nonfiction pick. So for this, I have 2 books that I think would work really well that I've been meaning to read for a long time. The first one is The Kill Jar by Reuban Appelman. This is basically about Detroit's most notorious serial killer, which Detroit is a very large city in my home state of Michigan. So I was very interested in what this was going to be about because I've never heard of this thing in my entire life. So let's see what that one's about. Then the other one is Turn Your Pain into Art by Ariel Bloomer. This is actually a book written by the lead singer of one of my favorite bands, Icon for Hire. And it is basically her way of talking about how turning any kind of pain into art is essentially what she did with creating her music. So let's see which one of these ends up winning. I will be happy with either of these, but let's see which one ends up being the winner. And we got a 6 that time, which means we are going to go with, come on, focus, there you go, 6. We're going to go with The Kill Jar for the nonfiction piece. I'm interested to see who exactly is considered the most notorious serial killer in Detroit and what exactly happened, because I've never heard of this in my entire life of living in Michigan. And finally, we have the new release in the last 6 months prompt, which we have You Don't Have a Shot by Raquel Marie versus Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. Immortal Longings was on my Aurelium TBR, so I would prefer to read this purely for that point to get through my Aurelium TBR before the next round of Aurelium in April. You Don't Have a Shot. I absolutely love Raquel Marie's other book, Ophelia After All. I fell in love with it. It was one of my most favorite books of 2022. And this is supposed to be something reminiscent of She's the Man, which is a very good 2000s movie if you've never seen it. It's got Amanda Bynes before she kind of, you know, went through what she did. So I think this is going to be very, very interesting. I think it's supposed to be reminiscent of She's the Man. I could be wrong. But let's see which of these 2023 releases are going on the D20 list this month. And we got a 12. So that means I will be sticking with my read of Immortal Longings and getting through my Aurelium TBR, which is great. So thank you, Dice, for actually being somewhat nice to me this time. I think all of these picks are ones that I am very, very happy with. I don't think I could have gone wrong, honestly, with any of the books that I picked. Okay, so to quickly recap for the Wheel of D20, for the prompt for a reread, we ended up going with The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is like my 5th or 6th reread of this, my 2nd or 3rd time this year alone. Always a good time, always so fun. My favorite romance of all time. Nice palette cleanser. I can't go wrong. With blue on the cover, I've got Adulthood Rites by Octavia E. Butler. This is also the Octavia E. Butler read-along book for the month of October. This is the 2nd book in the Xenogenesis trilogy, which is kind of more of a sci-fi story, which is very interesting. I really, really liked the 1st book, so I'm hoping that the 2nd book is just as good. Next, for nonfiction, we have The Kill Jar by J. Reuban Appelman. This is going to be interesting, considering this is about the most notorious serial killer from Detroit, which, again, never have heard of. Very interested to see how this is going to work. And especially because this is the month of October, I'm very happy that I have like kind of one maybe spooky or kind of dark and twisted book on my TBR. I can't believe I managed to accomplish that. That's great. And then finally, for a new release in the last 6 months, we have Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. This is one of the books I had wanted to read in the year of 2023 since it is a 2023 release. It also was on my original Aurelium TBR in August and I was not able to read it, so now I can officially get through this and then have this off of my Aurelium TBR and be closer to being able to complete all of the books I needed to for that, so that in April I can go to my normal way of doing my reading instead of having to backtrack everything again like I did already in August. Okay, so when it comes to Bookoplathon and Blackoween, a lot of what is going on in these two readathons is very much randomized because you have to roll to see what kind of prompts you get. So here's what I'm going to do to help with that. I am going to roll as I go naturally with Blackoween, as the prompts have to be randomized each time by rolling a 6-sided die. Whatever prompt I get there, I'm going to try to match up with whatever prompt I get from Bookoplathon. Hopefully one book will fulfill both, but if it ends up being that I read 2 different books, that's okay as well. Hopefully I can do one audiobook, one physical book, whatever the case may be. With that being said, then what happens is toward the end of the month, there is Vampathon, there is Samhain, the Witchathon round for Halloween, as well as the next round of the Battle of the Bookish Skills Training Camp. Now, Samhain basically has a little bingo board that you can hit. You can do this also with Vampathon. So basically what I'm going to do for both the Samhain and the Vampathon readathons is I am just going to read what I need to, what I want to, and if I manage to hit something on the boards for both of those in the weeks of those readathons, I will mark it off. But I am not 100% concerned with filling the board. I just want to at least try to fill in as much as I can within reason, because again, I don't want to overwhelm myself. I want to really try to do a little bit more mood reading if I can, so that I feel less stressed about everything and rely on the TBR I do have for book clubs and stuff like that to really take over, as well as what I have for Wheel of D20 and what I have for Battle of the Bookish. Which, with that being said, let's get into the books I'm going to be reading for the Battle of the Bookish Skills Training Camp. So this year for the Skills Training Camp, we have got the Avatar: The Last Airbender being the main theme of the readathon. This was the theme that was picked by our last big round winners in June. They decided that they wanted to do Avatar: The Last Airbender, where each of the teams is for the different elements. water, earth, air, and fire. And so what we decided to do with the skills training camp is kind of combine the last 2 skills training camps we've had into kind of one idea, where it's part scavenger hunt and one is part like whodunit, if you will, because we've done that for 2 different skills training camps. We had a whodunit and then we had more of a scavenger hunt. For this, we basically created prompts that were based on individual characters that are more so the main characters of the story. So we've got Aang, Katara, Sokka, Zuko, Toph, Iroh, and Fire Lord Ozai. These prompts are across the board for every single team, no matter what team you're on. These are the prompts that everyone is going to be doing to try and obtain points. And you still can read without associating it with a prompt, but you do get a boost by completing one of the prompts in the week. So whatever it is you complete, you'll get page points for, as stated in previous skills training camps. But if you read a book with a prompt in mind and assign that book to a prompt, you will get a bit of a bonus on your page points for that. So without further ado, let's get into the books that I will be reading. So for the character Aang, the prompt is to read a middle grade with heavy topics, because Aang is a character where he has a very kind of guilty conscience based on the fact that he hid himself away for 100 years before actually coming back and having to then take on the responsibility of being the Avatar when he still doesn't feel ready. So for this, like I said, we're doing a middle grade with heavy topics, which for this I'm going with Eden's Everdark, which is also Brandy for Books with Brandy Shanae's membership book club pick for the month of October. According to Bree, one of my friends who's read this book does deal with some familial grief where the mother of the main character has passed away, and she finds a sketchbook that her mother had made of Eden in what is called the Everdark. I don't know what that means, but anything to do with grief is something I think is very, very heavy for a middle grade book, because when you're a child, grief is not something that you really understand until you hit a certain point in life. For instance, I lost my grandfather when I was 13 years old. I didn't know really what death was until I lost him. And that was something that really changed my life forever. So I think that this is a really good pick for that prompt. Next we have Katara, which is to read a book with a strong female character, because Katara is the baddest of bitches. And for that, I'm going with The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin. I have a physical copy downstairs. I just don't have it with me right now. But this is involving a character who is apparently a very powerful character in terms of her abilities within this world. And this is also the book we will be reading for the N.K. Jemisin read-along for the month of October. That is the read-along I host. And I'm very excited because The Killing Moon was just wow. And I cannot wait to see what this one's about. Next we have Sokka, which is to read a book that makes you laugh, because he is the comedic energy that there is in the trio. And for that, I am picking The Hating Game, because every time I laugh at this book, I laugh so hard. It's one of my favorites for a reason. It always makes me giggle. It always makes me laugh. Next we have Zuko, which is to read a book with a redemption arc. And for this I am going with Immortal Longings, because if I am not mistaken, based on the synopsis, there does seem to be at least one character who is on the path of redemption, whether by means of, you know, redeeming himself or getting something that is going to redeem their character because of one thing or another. And so I feel like this is going to be a good fit for that one. Next we have Toph, who is our blind character in this series. She doesn't come in until a little bit later in the series, but she does become a part of the group of Aang, Sokka, and Katara. And so for this, because she's blind, we've decided to do a book in a non-traditional format. So something that is not physical. Now this can be ebook, this can be audiobook. This can extend to graphic novels and manga because it's not considered traditional in the Western world. Traditional publishing in the Western world is more like your standard, you know, book, physically kind of thing. So for this, I'm going to go with Adulthood Rites by Octavia E. Butler, because this is an ebook that I have, and it's also part of a collection where the books are all combined into one file. Next we have Iroh, who is the sweetest of old men. I just adore Iroh so much, and for this you're going to read a book that has cozy vibes, which for this I'm going to go with Body and Soul Food. This is a cozy mystery that is part of a book club I am going to be joining in on with Olivia from Olivia Reads a Lattes Patreon group. It is for the Cozy Cafe book club, I believe. So definitely excited to read this. And then finally we have Fire Lord Ozai, who is the big bad villain of the entire thing, the man that we strive to defeat in Avatar: The Last Airbender. And for this, you are to read a book with big bad villain energy. For this, I am reading This Vicious Grace by Emily Thiede. This is for Olivia's Le Fantasma group that she does with, I believe, Gabby Reads. But this is the book we're going with because from what I saw of the synopsis, there does seem to be some kind of overwhelming energy that is kind of like impending, which I consider to feel like that big bad villain energy. So other things I have not mentioned as of yet for book clubs. We have the Zora Neale Hurston book, which I do not know if I'm going to be able to get because I cannot seem to figure out where this book is for the life of me, but it's the complete series, I guess. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna see what that's all about and report back later. Then we have the Mooney Book Club read, which I am also part of G from Book Roast's Patreon group. And the book for the Moonies this month is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. And then finally, I am also a part of Jan Agaton's group on Patreon. I'm a part of The Lair. And for our book club read for the month of October, it is Black Sheep by somebody, Rebecca something, I think. I can't quite remember the name of it, but I think it's a Rebecca. So most of the books that I have on my TBR are books either that are ebook or I have to borrow from the library or something like that. So I only have these 3 to show you. And most of the month is also going to be mood reading in some capacity. But yeah. Oh, I did also forget to mention there is a group book for Blackoween for the Laissez-Faire group, which I am a part of, as that is for my friends Bree and Brandy. They are hosting that spot of Blackoween this year, and the group book for Laissez-Faire is called The Dark Place. So adding that on here as well. I'm going to be using that to count for 2 prompts, which is the group read prompt and then also for a prompt called basically about time travel, a book that involves some kind of time travel. So that is, I think, the last of it. So most of these books I don't actually have physically with me, so it is what it is. But like I said, a lot of the month is also going to be very mood ready. During the last full week of October, I'm also going to be on vacation. I'm going to be in California for about 6 days visiting some friends. And so I am thinking I will have quite a bit of time to read, but I don't know what exactly I'm going to be reading because it's also going to depend on how exactly the month goes. My thought is that basically for Battle of the Bookish is what I'm going to focus on the most, so that means I would probably be taking The Hating Game and The Shadowed Sun and Immortal Longings with me on my vacation if I get through all of that. Battle of the Bookish starts on the Sunday before I leave, so I'll have Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday to start my reads, and then I leave for vacation on Wednesday, and so I will likely get through The Hating Game first, and then very likely try to get through Immortal Longings. So I may only take The Shadowed Sun. It really just depends on how my reading goes over the month. But whatever happens is going to happen. We're going to go through it. We're going to get through it. But the whole thing with Bookoplathon and Blackoween, like I said, is it's completely randomized. I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know what I'm going to end up being able to read for those. So there's going to be a lot of mood reading this month and a lot of random books, I think, that I am not going to have on my own, that I'm going to have to probably borrow from the library to some extent. So I don't know. This is going to be a very odd month, that's for sure. It's going to make for a very interesting wrap up, I think, in general. So we shall see. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you guys did enjoy this, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.